Hello there. We are breaking down a 2-round rookie Superflex mock draft today. This is going to give us an opportunity to see where your favorite rookies are being drafted, and we'll be answering some important questions about your favorite prospects. I'm Alfredo Brown, and today I am joined by Heath Cummings. You can find all of his work with Fantasy Football Today and some little company, you might have heard of it, CBS Sports. Heath, I think I'm a big fan. I believe Zareh is a big fan. A lot of people are big fans. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction. I'm happy to be here. Happy to do this. Looking forward to kind of breaking down this 2023 class. I know it's not as good as the 2024 class because the current class is never as good as the future class, but I'm still pretty excited about this group. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the current year is never as good. Always trade for future picks. That's the philosophy. I'm also joined today by Zareh Kantzabedian. You can find all of his work here at Football Guys. And Zareh, I just got to point this out right from the jump. If you guys are not watching on YouTube, Zareh has a just absolutely perfect mustache. Sir, we're going to have to go over some tips on grooming after the show.
Yeah, it has its own Twitter profile. It also gives out its own fantasy advice too. But thank you for having me. I'm also looking forward to getting into this rookie class this year.
Gentlemen, let's get started with our Superflex rookie mock draft. We did 2 rounds here, and well, we're not going to spend too much time on this, but Bijan Robinson, the running back out of Texas, appears to be the unanimous 101 first pick everywhere. That's who I auto drafted with the first pick of this mock. There are dynasty managers with their number 1 pick in their rookie drafts and have heard the legend of Bijan Robinson for a couple of years now. But now we're also hearing about maybe you're not ready to compete and you shouldn't take Bijan Robinson. So I'm going to throw this question to you first, Heath. Is there a scenario, whether it's Superflex, non-Superflex, whatever, in Dynasty where a manager should not select Bijan Robinson as their first pick?
Not if you make your first pick. I'll say that. I think the scenario of not selecting Bijan Robinson, and I'm open to the idea if you're at the very beginning of a rebuild and you think that you're a couple of years away, that you don't want to take the running back. But if that's the case, don't take one of these other guys. Just trade down, acquire more picks, which is probably what you should be doing if you're rebuilding anyway. But no, I don't think there's really any reason if you are making the selection at 101 that you should take anyone other than Bijan Robinson.
After the first pick, Heath, at the 102, you took CJ Stroud, the quarterback out of Ohio State. Zareh, you took Bryce Young, quarterback out of Alabama. That's easy for me to say. And then the 104, I took Anthony Richardson, the quarterback out of Florida. So we see 3 quarterbacks go off the board here, and it seems like that's most likely what's going to happen in a lot of these Superflex rookie drafts. Zareh, you took Bryce Young with the 3rd pick. And he's a guy that I think a couple months ago, maybe, he was the consensus QB1 amongst a lot of draft experts. And I think for a lot of people, they still consider him the QB1. So is that where you have him? Is he your top QB? And if so, how would you rank the top 3 quarterbacks in this class?
It's really neck and neck between Young and Stroud for me. I can't really give. If you want to do the old, Young ways, his weight concerns are what edge him out of the QB1 overall spot. I mean, I think if he didn't have any weight concerns, we'd all have him as QB1. On paper, CJ Stroud has, if you're looking at best season performances, CJ Stroud has been the better quarterback in any kind of advanced metric you look at. CJ Stroud has been better. But the thing about Bryce Young, and he's been the model of consistency at Alabama through the first 2 years as a starter, right? So, I mean, if you look at Stroud's completion percentages in 2021 when he's playing with Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and JSN, his completion percentage was plus 70%. Now, without them, it's back down to 66%. Still fine, but it's arguable. But this year, he still had a better receiving core than Bryce Young did in 2022. Bryce Young's the person with the most receptions on Alabama this year was Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back. With Jahmyr Gibbs, he took Alabama to an 11-2 record, and he has one of the most consistent resumes of any quarterback of this class.
Yeah, I think it's going to be neck and neck as we get closer to this NFL draft of who the top quarterback is. Now, Heath, you took another guy who, the sports books and a lot of analysts now believe CJ Stroud will be the number 1 overall selection of the Carolina Panthers. He and Josh McCown seem to be already picking houses out together in Charlotte. But you took him as the quarterback 1 in this rookie mock. Do you think that he's probably the safest quarterback in this group? And then how would you rank these top 3?
Yeah, definitely the safest in the group. And I would go Stroud, Young, Richardson. I hate to even rank the top 3 because I feel like that there's a pretty big tier for me after the top 2. I have no idea what Richardson's floor is or what the odds of him reaching that phenomenal ceiling are. I feel pretty good about both Stroud and Young, and I do think really that the thing that separates those two for me is just the size concerns. I'm kind of try to stay away from those types of things, but when you've got a guy who is basically smaller than almost any quarterback who's had success in the NFL, yeah, I think you have to weigh that at least a little bit, no pun intended. So Stroud does have the higher floor. I think they both have the ceiling to be the QB1 in this class and a long-term fantasy top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, I think I lean with you on the CJ Stroud love. One, I think it's just very hard to bet on a guy like Young who's, for all intents and purposes, he will be an outlier if he is very successful in the NFL due to his size. And CJ Stroud, we saw a lot of what he can do in that Georgia game in the biggest stage against the best competition, one of the best defenses that college football has seen in a long time. And he showed up. So, yeah, I think that when it comes to this class, it's going to be close, but I think I lean Stroud with you as well there. If you play Dynasty football, that means you are prepping for your rookie drafts. That's obviously why you're watching this video in the first place. Drop a like on this video and be sure that you're subscribed to the Football Guys channel. That way you don't miss out any of our upcoming rookie and NFL draft content. NFL draft is almost here. So leave a comment below with your rookie draft questions. Which prospects should you be considering with your pick? And maybe you should be trading away that pick for a veteran. Who knows? Maybe it's time for you to compete. Drop that in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to get back to every single one of you. Now, after those quarterbacks went, and I took Anthony Richardson, I'll just be really brief on him. He is one of the biggest wild cards in this draft. Right. And I think you're going to have a lot of dynasty managers super excited that he can do all the things that Jalen Hurts can do. But let's not confuse it. Jalen Hurts was a better passer coming out of Oklahoma than Anthony Richardson is right now. Like it's not close, but I think that Anthony Richardson's a much better athlete than pretty much any quarterback we've seen, and that's been proven. So I think it's kind of managing expectations, especially in a Superflex rookie draft like this, of who you're taking. Anthony Richardson's probably not going to play for you a lot in year one, but if he does get on the field at some point, you could have that guy that's like the skeleton key that unlocks everything for your dynasty team. Now, after these quarterbacks went off the board, we had 3 more players, and it's all skill players. So Heath at the 105, he took Jackson Smith and Jigba, the wide receiver from Ohio State. At the 106, Zareh, you took Jordan Addison, wide receiver from USC, and then I took Jahmyr Gibbs, running back out of Alabama. Zareh, I'm going to throw this to you first. You took Jordan Addison. He's a guy that at one point, like Daniel Jeremiah had him ranked, I believe still does, has him ranked as top wide receiver. But since the combine, a lot of people have dropped him in their rankings, and I've seen him go as low as pick 11 in rookie mocks, and you took him here at 6. So why do you still have him in your top 6 over guys like Jahmyr Gibbs and Quentin Johnston?
Well, I think I have him over Jahmyr Gibbs because philosophically, for me, I value the wide receiver position way more higher than I do the running back position. Unless you're a very elite guy like Bijan Robinson this year, in startup drafts, in rookie drafts, I just value like the wide receiver position. Getting a wide receiver in the first round who's projected to get first round draft capital leaves me less work to do as a dynasty manager. And I'm a lazy dynasty manager. I don't want to have to keep attending to all of my many, many dynasty leagues. Just give me less work to do. But Jordan Addison has a great production profile in the last 2 years at Pitt and USC. I think Jordan Addison, the main concern was his 40 time coming out of the combine, right? And I think this is a subject that deserves a whole other half hour of conversation, but how much stock we give the 40 time, especially when it comes to wide receivers. I think when you look at I was looking at the top 10 wide receiver performances or 40-yard wide receiver performances at the combine over the past 14 years. Every single wide receiver that posted the fastest 40-yard number time over the past 14 years, they did not post one single 1,000-yard receiving season. Now, there are still a couple of guys. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, right? Those guys are surefire studs. But that's still, 2 out of the top 10 guys. And if you branched it out to the top 25 fastest guys at the combine, only 5 people hit, which was like Brandon Cooks, DK Metcalf, John Brown, a couple other guys I can't remember.
You're reaching into your bag right now for John Brown references.
Yeah, I love John Brown, man. I still have his stuff, man. I've loved John Brown throughout his entire career. But yeah, John Brown. I can't remember the other 2 guys, but yeah, the hit rates for the fast wide receiver 40 time, it's a great thing to look at, but I mean, it just isn't all that. It's not all that cracked up to be. And, you know, draft capital, I think, is the boss when it comes to like when you have your profiles set up and your analytics and you have all your formatting colors on your Excel spreadsheet. That draft capital rules everything else when you're taking into account what kind of production this guy's going to put up in his first two or three years.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see where Jordan Addison lands, because is he going to be asked to be the number one wide receiver on a team, or is he going to be a complimentary guy? But no matter what, I think that he's a guy who can most definitely produce. I mean, we've seen that with his college production profile, Blitnikoff Award winner, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and the guy can play. I mean, anyone who watches football and can see him, you see that he can play. The 40 time, I'm with you, Zareh. It gets really overblown there. Heath, you went with a guy that people are just drooling over because he's got, the word that gets NFL general managers fired, potential. He's got so much potential. He's big, he's fast, and that's basically as far as the rookie scouting report goes for wide receiver Quentin Johnston, from TCU. Seems like most dynasty managers are really pushing to get into that top 7. So Quentin Johnston, you took him here at 8. Do you think that there's a talent drop off from him here at 8, or does that maybe come after him?
I do think there's a talent drop off from him at 8, but I think I'm probably more pushing to get into the top 5 than I am the top 7. I think with both Addison and with Quentin Johnston, like there's far more hope than there is floor compared to the guys like JSN and I would say even like Gibbs. I'm more excited in the top 2 quarterbacks and Bijan, of course. But no, I do think there's a drop off after him. I'm a sucker for the big, fast guy. And he did some other things. Like he only had 487 yards his first season at TCU, but that led the team in receiving yards. That's a pretty good sign for your first year in college football. Obviously, last year, 1,069, his best year at TCU. I think with his profile, once you get past the sure things, I'm going to go for the big, fast guy.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said, especially from where you're picking. If you're, team number 8 in a 12-team league, and that is your pick, that means you're probably one really good player away from contending for a championship every year. And if Quentin Johnston is that guy that, he ends up in the right scenario, he could be kind of that thing that gets you over the edge and helps you finally start winning dynasty championships instead of, being the bridesmaid every year. So after that, gentlemen, we got here to picks 109 through 112 to close out the first round. Zareh, you went with, finally, the quarterback that everyone seems to hate. The 4th quarterback off the board, Will Levis. He puts mayonnaise in his coffee, so I think it's deserved that he goes 4th here. Quarterback out of Kentucky. At the 110, I took Zach Charbonnet. I love saying his name. Running back out of UCLA. Heath, you went with Zay Flowers, wide receiver from Boston College. And then, Zareh, you finished off the first round with Josh Downs, the wide receiver from North Carolina. And Zareh, you had 2 interesting picks here. Now, the first is the QB. Like I said, no one really seems to want him, but you took him anyways. And then a wide receiver that I was considering at pick 10. I really, really like Josh Downs when you look at him from everything from a film standpoint, an analytical standpoint, the production profile, and even the combine, despite not weighing in super heavy or being very tall. He's a player I really liked. So when you're drafting, and especially specifically rookies here, do you go for the guys that you really like? Guys you're like, I feel it in my gut. Or do you sometimes maybe take a player you're not as high on? Let's just say, in this example, a Will Levis. I don't know if you are high on him or not, but you take him because the value is there at that pick. How do you typically weigh that out?
Yeah, absolutely. As far in regards to Will Levis, we're playing in it. We're drafting a Superflex format, and in a dynasty league, in a Superflex, rookie draft, the quarterback at the end of the first round, who came out of college playing in a pro system, who's going to get projected first round draft capital. I mean, Kenny Pickett I think he was going in the first round of rookie drafts last year. Will Levis I like him way better than Kenny Pickett. So, I mean, I think he deserves first round draft capital. And, last year, he was up and down a lot. He was playing on injury last year. He got just destroyed by Tennessee. But, I mean, Will Levis, I'm not going to argue with him at the back of the first round. Josh Downs, if you want to see what it looks like for a small guy to play huge, like a big man, Josh Downs is your guy. He's going to be a slot receiver in the NFL. But Josh Downs has been putting up fantastic numbers at the University of North Carolina over the past 2 seasons. When I first saw him play, I saw Tyler Lockett. That's who I saw in Josh Downs. That's who he reminds me of. And I love Tyler Lockett. He's got some of the best body control in the league. So he makes some of the best catches year in and year out. So when I see that in a player and I see him at the end of the first round, I'm all over that. I love Josh Downs. That guy makes competitive catches. He goes over the middle. They use him kind of like a tight end in the seam sometimes at North Carolina. I mean, he doesn't care. He'll run to contact. He's absolutely fantastic.
Zareh, I just love that you are championing all the little guys in this draft. Bryce Young, Josh Downs, like you just good for you, buddy. You get to take them to Disney World. They get to go on Splash Mountain together. They're all tall enough to play in the NFL now. It's exciting. All right. Well, listen, if you are prepping for your rookie draft and you need some help, we've got you covered. The Football Guys Rookie Draft Guide has prospect profiles on over 120 prospects. You can use this for a 10-round rookie draft if you really needed to. And you're going to know about every single sleeper and value pick to give you a major advantage in your dynasty rookie drafts. Now, version 2.0 of the guide has already been updated with all the athletic testing that we've been mentioning here in the show, and it's got relative athletic scores. Version 3.0 is going to be updated after the NFL draft to incorporate all the landing spots and where we see the value for this upcoming season and for the future. And this guide is free right now for a limited time. However, if you become a Football Guys Elite subscriber, it's going to remain free for you. You never have to worry about paying for the guide or any of these other features. Most rookie guides cost you $15 to $20, and you have to buy another guide, and you don't even get any other added value to it. But with an Elite Football Guys subscription, you're going to get the Rookie Guide 3.0, our consensus rookie rankings, our dynasty rankings, dynasty trade value chart, access to every single dynasty article, and the League Dominator app, which is going to work for dynasty and redraft leagues, all for just $5.79 per month. It is the most affordable premium fantasy football subscription anywhere. Go to footballguys.com, or you can just click the link in the show details. Gentlemen, we are now into round 2. If only the NFL draft would actually go this fast, but round 2 here, I think that we could all agree you start to see the talent. I don't want to say drop off, but it's definitely a whole nother beast getting into round 2. You're taking a lot more swings for the fences here. And so I think that was pretty evident with our first picks. At 201, I took Dalton Kincaid, the tight end out of Utah. Heath, you went with Zach Evans, running back out of Ole Miss. Zareh, you finally took someone who does not weigh 160 pounds. You took Michael Mayer, the tight end out of Notre Dame. I took Marvin Mims, wide receiver out of Oklahoma. And then Heath at the 205, you took Roshan Johnson, the running back out of Texas. Now, Heath, in this scenario, you weren't one of the cool kids. You didn't take a tight end early in round 2. And so I'm curious, is that more of like a philosophy thing, or was this about the players? Was it an indictment on maybe Mayer? Or is Zach Evans like a guy you really like? What was the thought process there?
Yes. No, it's not necessarily an indictment of Mayer. It's just more of an indictment of tight end, period, the position. If you're not Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews, and even those guys, like you're using a rookie pick on a guy that you're hoping is probably going to help you in 3 years, maybe 4 years. You're not going to get a lot of production out of these guys very soon. And for Evans specifically, this is the type of, and it is a dart throw, but the type of dart I like to throw in round 2. He has all the physical tools. He's been an incredible specimen since he was coming out of high school, and he's a 5-star recruit. And he has some injury concerns, but if things go right, he has an ability to make people miss and an ability to take it to the house. I think we've seen a lot of these second-round running backs who probably turn into good trade candidates if they have a good rookie year, but have given us value in that first year in the NFL. Now, landing spot could change all this, and draft capital, obviously, but with what we know right now, I like the home run potential of a pick like Evans and Johnson in round 2.
Yeah, I mean, those second round running backs you were talking about last year, a lot of us were getting, Rashad White and Tyler Algier, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other names that I'm forgetting at the moment. But yeah, we saw value from rookie running backs that maybe didn't have all the draft cap. Damian Pierce until he finally ended up in the first round. But yeah, I mean, this seems like the moment to kind of swing for the fences because you don't have nearly as many safe bets going on at this point in the draft. At the 206, Zareh, you took Devon Achane, running back out of Texas A&M. And we see a little string of running backs go here. I took Tyjae Spears, running back out of Tulane. Heath, you went with Deuce Vaughn, the running back out of Kansas State. And then Zareh, you took Jalen Hyatt, the wide receiver out of Tennessee at the 209. And so Zareh, this question is for you. When it comes to these running backs, just like we were talking about, running backs, getting drafted in the second round of rookie drafts, we've seen that there is a good ceiling from guys like a Rashad White and a Tyler Algier and Damian Pierce. However, we've also seen kind of the flip side of that, where you get worried about them being in a committee. And I think that's the fear of a lot of the dynasty managers of those players I mentioned before. Who's going to get drafted to work with them? What free agent's going to get signed to work with them? So when you're looking at these players here in this round, do you get worried that basically everyone's going to be in a committee? Or do you just say, you know what? everyone is going to be in a committee. So it's just, let me just find a guy who fits into a role.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head, Alfredo. I mean, the running backs, there really aren't any guys that are going to be like workhorse guys, 3-down backs, especially in the second round. I really don't ever actually take a running back in the second round, but I've been coming around to Devin Achane. I'd rather have a wide receiver that's going to have, early day 2 draft capital and just hope I hit with one of those guys. But Devin Achane, I've been coming around on. We were just talking about the 40 time. Devin Achane ran the fastest 40 time at the combine. And that's not why I picked him, but he had the second highest burst score. When I'm looking at running backs, burst score is what you want to be looking at. I mean, not, as far as workouts, the 3-cone drill is what it's a good example of burst, right? Because the position is run in very tight confines. You have to have very good stop-start ability. So he had the second highest burst score. And when you couple that along with the highest 40 time, it's really good. And I've also been looking at a new stat that is rush yards per team attempt, right? And so this is kind of like a new advanced metric I've been looking at. And for example, right, when you're looking at best season metrics by running backs, for example, Jonathan Taylor and CMC both had 3.3 yards rush yards per team attempt, right? 3.3 yards. That's kind of like top tier.
Is this NFL or college when you
this
say
is
this?
college we're talking about? Right?
College,
This
okay.
is the best college season. Sorry if I didn't explain that. If you're looking at Breece Hall and Derrick Henry, they were better. They had 3.5 yards, right? That was their mark. Devin Achane, he was at 3.6 yards per team attempt. And this isn't saying that he's better than those guys, but it's an indicator that shows how much more efficient he was with the volume than other running backs on his team, right? When he had the volume, that's how much more efficient he was. So this is another indicator that makes me think, okay, Devin Achane, when taking all the things I said into consideration, this is, at the back of the second round, fine, I'll take a running back here. If it's going to be any running back, I'd rather have Devin Achane than most of the other running backs.
Yeah, and a metric that you mentioned there is just the rushing yards per team attempt. That's a nice play off of another metric that's being used quite often with receivers, which is receiving yards per pass attempt. And I mean, both are pretty indicative of success. And man, I love how much analytics are starting to play so much more into fantasy football, and even just like scouting these rookies. All the film grinders are now like, all right, I guess I have to look at numbers a little bit and understand what they mean, and put some context to all of this. Also, I'm not going to let this slide. At 208, Heath is now the new champion of all the little men out there by drafting Deuce Vaughn, who's like 5'6". Am I correct on that?
It's approximately, yeah. I mean, he approximately. I felt like I stole him from Z. I apologize for that. Really messed up his draft plans, but no, I mean, just the way the dude bounces around the field. Again, another lottery ticket that it's possible that he gets into the NFL and he's just a special teams player. He can't play at this level, but if he can, he has the upside to have one of those special type seasons that makes your second round pick worth it, even if it's his only good season.
Yeah, I think a lot of people quickly compare him to Darren Sproles, another Kansas State guy, and Tariq Cohen, and a lot of other little guys. That's like the easiest comp to make. But I mean, we're so quick to dismiss it, but those guys were very, very productive for fantasy. And so if you're taking swings, it might as well be for a guy that can be productive for your fantasy.
And I think there's a benefit in taking guys like that who don't fit certain teams' models. Like there's maybe a third of the league or a half the league's like, no, I'm not drafting a 5'6" running back. But the teams that will do so with the intention of using them. So I think he has a better chance of having an organizational fit, maybe because of the size concerns.
Yes, I'm over here nodding my head a lot, which really works great on audio podcasts. So those of you watching on YouTube, yes, I'm in very much in agreement there with Heath.
If I may interject real quick,
go for it, Zareh.
I'm a big Deuce Vaughn supporter, and in the second you kind of tweet that out and you're saying, all right, he's doing great at the combine, and you put that on Twitter, all the people come in who play off the historical kind of trends of this guy's been so. They just won't let you have fun. They just won't let you have fun. I love Deuce Vaughn as a player. Also, I mean, like I was studying Deuce Vaughn a little bit a couple months ago, and I had this. There was one play where he went to the outside and juked a guy in the open field. But what he does, his physical attributes and how he gets around players is insane. Like his ankle flexion will go at like 45 degrees. He has some insane ankle flexion. That lower body composite like allows him to do some things that a lot of taller running backs won't allow him to do. I love.
I knew I stole him from you.
Yeah, he's not a small guy. Yeah.
Zareh, I think you're gonna have to update the Twitter profile, just change the bio, champion of the hashtag Short Kings, man, because like you are repping these guys to the end here.
I wasn't happy when you took Marvin Mims from me. I wasn't happy when you took Marvin Mims.
That's my guy. I love Marvin Mims. All right, let's get to our final 3 picks here to close out the second round. I went with running back Kendre Miller out of TCU. Heath, you took Hendon Hooker, the quarterback from Tennessee, and then Zareh, you took another Tennessee prospect here, Cedric Tillman, the wide receiver. And there's arguments of who's the better wide receiver between him and Jalen Hyatt, and I think it's interesting that we kind of let Jalen Hyatt fall that far. But seeing all these Tennessee guys go here, Heath, I want to pinpoint your pick in particular. You took Hendon Hooker, the quarterback, and there's been a lot of smoke lately about him possibly being a guy that could even go in the end of the first round, probably more likely early second round. I think this happens every year. We saw it happen a couple years ago with like Kyle Trask, like really getting bumped up there. Now here we are years later, and they're kind of like, sure, he might be the starter. So when looking at a quarterback, especially like a Hendon Hooker in this situation, how much does draft capital matter to you? Particularly with the QB position.
It matters a lot. I think if he somehow sneaks into the first round, he's not going to be available at 211. Most likely in a Superflex draft. I think he's probably going to go a little bit sooner. But I also like one of the problems with him, and rightly, like people will judge you if you're 25 years old and you're in the NFL draft. But at the same time, I think like for those teams, we were talking earlier about all those QB desperate teams. This is the kind of guy with the experience that a team that feels like, you know what, we could have a Giants 9-7 type season. Could possibly try to maybe just almost bridge with a rookie and give him a shot. Now, obviously he's coming off the ACL. We don't know when he's going to be completely ready, but I do think he has the maturity to possibly have some early low end QB2 type success and make that pick worthwhile.
Yeah, he seems like one of those guys that it's almost like how you mentioned with the running backs, right? Is like the running back, the small running backs that get drafted are getting drafted into a specific role for a team that's going to use them. If Hendon Hooker gets drafted early, it's not going to be to a team that doesn't know how to use him, or at least that's the thought process there, right? And so I think you could see him be one of those guys that quickly takes over after a bridge quarterback, or, he's even one of these players that like the Seattle Seahawks with Geno Smith. Geno could start for another year, and how long until maybe he turns into a pumpkin again? And then they're looking at maybe Hendon Hooker coming in there as the starting quarterback. So I think there's some pretty interesting options for him. If he does go in the first round, Heath, though, like you said, yeah, I think he gets drafted way earlier than the 211. Zareh, I'm going to throw this to you first, man. After drafting this team, if you could give one piece of advice to dynasty managers going into their rookie draft, what would that be?
Yeah, I think it's exemplary in my Will Levis pick at the end of the first round. I mean, if the value falls to you, and even if you don't like the player, take your personal biases out of that selection. That's extreme value in a Superflex League startup. Just rip off the Band-Aid, make the pick, and you're going to feel a lot better about it in the morning, because that's a lot of value falling to you at the end of the first.
Awesome. And then Heath, once again, if you could give one piece of advice to a dynasty manager going into the rookie draft, what would that be?
Well, first off, try to schedule your rookie draft after the NFL draft, because we're going to look back at a couple of these picks and it's going to feel awfully silly about them. I strongly prefer having those drafts after we know what plays, where they're going to be playing. But I do think those 3 backs that I took in round 2, Evans, Roschon Johnson, Deuce Vaughn, those are the types of guys in the second round that I'm targeting, especially if you're a team that is a contender. Those guys don't hold as much value for someone who's early or in the middle of the rebuild process. But if you can hit on one of those round 2 running backs that turns into a top 15 running back this season, that could be the guy that makes the difference in finishing 4th and 1st.
All right, let us know in the comments or in your review, who do you think ended up with the best team here today in the rookie draft? Like he said, these could really change once the NFL draft takes place. But that's all for us today. Thank you so much to my guests, Heath Cummings and Zareh Kantzabedian, for joining me. You can find all of Heath's work over at Fantasy Football Today and CBS Sports. And you can always get more Zareh, because we all want more Zareh in our life, right here at footballguys.com. I'll be back next week with Matt Harmon and Joey Wright as we go through the rookie wide receiver class. For myself, for Zareh, and for Heath, adios. For more Dynasty content just like this, click the video to the left of me and make sure you're subscribed to the Football Guys YouTube channel.